Hey guys, and welcome back to the 1v1 podcast. I am your host, Vlhadus, and today I have a very special guest. He is a good friend of my friend, Captain Redbeard. He is a member, or actually the guild leader. Redbeard is the member. He is the guild leader of Suspect, which is Redbeard's guild. This is Psycho-Phobic. What's going on, man?
Not much. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Hey, no problem, man. Like I always appreciate the conversation, especially with a fellow Ashes person and also like, an MMO lover. It's always good talking to people like that.
Yeah, it's nice to gush about Ashes. We're all excited.
Aren't we all? So just before we get into like talking about like the monthly live stream and all that other stuff, I just want to give a quick shout out to the people that have been watching and supporting this show, because frankly, like, I don't consider myself like a big content creator. Like, I'm trying my best to put my name out there. I'm really glad the format of the 1v1 show is working and people are really digging it. This show is going to have lo-fi in it, okay? So if you like the lo-fi, there's going to be a survey in the description, and I want to pin a comment down in the comment section to vote if you want lo-fi continuing forward, or if do you like it without the lo-fi. I've been really trying to get a good gauge on my my community, so here's your chance, because if not, it's gonna stick with the lo-fi because I like the lo-fi. But I digress. Anyway, Psycho. So I guess the first question I always ask people is like, what's your gaming history? Like, what MMOs have you played? What got you to this point?
I've lost count. We kind of joke about it in the guild that I'm old.
You're probably the same age I am.
My first like actual online MMO was Ultima Online, and that consumed much of my life as a young man. But
you were either Ultima or EverQuest. That was the two back in the day.
Yeah, I actually missed the EverQuest boat because I was still sucked into Ultima at the time. I'm not sure how familiar you are with Ultima, but I stopped not long after Trammel got patched. That's kind of when they went Care Bear mode. They lost a large part of their audience when that happened. So they're I kind of dabbled with some private servers, and their state of the game being like the pre-patch version of it. So
right,
it's fun, brings up some nostalgia. But yeah, that was probably I think that was my very first online MMO. Before that, I mean, I was gaming since I was like 3 or 4 years old with Atari and Nintendo and all that stuff back then.
Just classic gamer status stuff, playing Mario, playing like, Super Nintendo, N64, or Sega, Dreamcast. I mean, I kind of
N64 was probably my favorite
me too,
console of all time. There's so many good games on it. It's very underrated.
So for me, Super Nintendo had Killer Instinct, and when Killer Instinct Gold came out for N64, like that was like my fighting game. But then Super Smash Bros came out, and it just ended friendships.
Yeah.
Like that game
it did.
was so
totally
good.
Did.
And then Melee came out. Oh, I can go on and on and on. I always love reminiscing about that kind of stuff because it's just kind of funny, depending on how old a person is, like what systems they were attracted to when they were a child. Because that also kind of inlays into like how they got into the MMO genre. Like for myself, it was kind of weird because I went in from a first person shooter perspective, because that's what I was really into, especially in high school. Like with Halo, that was like the game that I played. I think everybody was playing Halo in 2000s area. But and if you weren't playing Halo, you were probably locked into like an Ultima Online or Lineage 2 or like World of Warcraft or one of those other kind of games. Yeah. But for you said you were kind of sucked into Ultima. Like, was that like, so that was the first MMO experience for you? Is that correct?
Yeah. I think to my recollection, that was the first actual MMO that I was playing. And then I moved on to stuff like City of Heroes and WoW and EVE Online and The list goes on. I can't possibly name them all. It's a lot though.
No, I'm sure. And you know, considering all of your knowledge of everything going on, this is a question I kind of like asking people now, is where the state of MMOs are. Like, you know, since you've played, like, I wish I had the kind of knowledge you have, because, you know, me coming from playing like World of Warcraft for almost 15, 16 years, like, that's the game I've known. Like, I did not abandon that game. I stuck with it. I played every expansion. I leveled every single class. You know, I did it all. But for people like you that were kind of bouncing from MMO to MMO, I'm pretty sure you have a very good idea of, like, why do you think the MMO genre started to go down this kind of downturn? This kind of, was it because of corporate, you know, influence? Was it because of more monetizing kind of practices? Like, you know, where do you think it all went wrong?
I think, I mean, this is just my opinion, but I think just based off of my own experience, and knowing some of the history behind like what made MMOs come to market, is that, for example, like Ultima, if you've known or like watched any documentaries on Ultima, it basically started out as like a couple of guys trying to pitch this idea for an MMO, and at that time it had never been done before, really. But it wasn't until they launched it and realized how much money could be made that the corporate suits got involved, and they're like, oh, we can monetize this, and then
Right.
it like really took off. So I think it's just kind of escalated over the decades of, you know, big game companies and publishers realizing that they can just like make money hand over fist if they monetize a certain way. So it's kind of I don't know. I think if I was trying to find the right wording, it's kind of just corrupted the gamer industry into this corporate suit of, you know, we got to please our shareholders and all this stuff. That's kind of why Ashes and games, unfortunately, the crowdfunded arena of gaming has also been tainted by scammers and, you know, games that are just taking way longer than they should have, and, you know, feature creep and all that stuff. It's kind of gotten out of hand. But I'm hoping that that things are going to turn around soon. We'll see, though.
It's really hard, right? Because I really feel like a minority of gamers are ruining it for the entire base. I don't think everybody does pay to win or enjoys pay to win, but 5%, 10% of the overall MMO population that don't mind spending, I'm talking obscenes amount of money.
They're carrying
They're carrying
trend of
exactly
doing it,
and it just it makes that like, well, if even if people just try our game out once and maybe do like a $10 microtransaction, we have it free to play, that's more than enough. But they're literally trying to sustain off of like 5 to 10% off of the overall player base. So just like pay $100,000, dude. Who in their right mind would want to spend $100,000 first of all on a mobile game? Like, and I'm pretty sure you know what game I'm talking about, but it blows my mind.
It's not even just mobile games. I can't remember who it was that was interviewing this guy, but there was this whale. This guy was getting interviewed. This whale that was playing Black Desert Online, and he said that he spent $750,000 on his character to try and stay ahead of that, you know, power creep that they had gone. So just like, when I heard that, I was like, are you kidding me? What?
Jesus.
But I mean, it's that sort of mentality, and, you know, I mean, that's great if you've got the money to spend on it, but you're feeding the problem though if you're just throwing money at the game like that.
And it honestly just lets those same makers, right, the big AAA studios, yep, this is what we got to keep doing. Like, this is the practice. Like, so if we're going to invest 5 to 10 years to make an MMO, this is the standard model that we got to go with for monetization. And I'm so glad that there is someone like Steven Sharif who sees that and is like, fuck that. I'm going to do it like the way I think it should be done. And again, I would love to pay myself, and I know this is not for everybody, but I would love to pay $40 a month for Ashes of Creation to not have any in-game shop at all. I would personally love to have that. I just don't think it'll go over well, like with the overall player base.
The majority of people won't
right.
go for that.
And especially the barrier to entry.
But I
right?
get what you're saying though, yeah.
Because I would rather, and this is why for me a cosmetic cash shop isn't really terrible. Like hell, I came from WoW. What do I have to talk about when it comes to like monetization, right? Freaking WoW token. We've had numerous like pay to convenience, transmog mounts. Like we've had it all, like in World of Warcraft.
Well,
you
even
know what I mean?
Yeah, if you use World of Warcraft as an example, you can. That's also another example of you know, the gamer focused development studio that made WoW to begin with what
Right.
it was supposed to be to you know, for the gamers. And then over time, you know, the suits got involved and said, we want to monetize this more, blah, 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 and make it appeal more to the masses. And that's why we have cookie cutter games and, you know, sample sized games now, is that, you know, they want people, as many people as possible, to partake. Even if it's just a little bit at a time, they're still getting money out of those people. And that's basically what the industry has turned into now, unfortunately, is just, you know, how do we make this this money machine work better? So it's not about the gamers anymore, it's about the money.
No, for sure. And so for me not to like spiral into depression anymore, let's talk about something a little bit more. I just always like asking that question because I just think it's always really cool to find out like where people are and why they're still excited for the MMO genre, right? Because
I do think that we're on the cusp of a change though, because I think all the gamers are sick of it, and that they're, you know, there's always going to be a portion of gamers that are going to give into that and do the whole pay to win thing. But I think enough of the gamer population has had enough of it, and I think that there's a change coming. At least I hope there is. So
I hope so too, man. I mean, and again, like I feel if Riot's MMO comes out and it's free to play and it has just a cosmetic only cash shop, like I really hope that along with Ashes of Creation doing what they're doing can kind of re-solidify the standard. And even Final Fantasy 14, they do have pay to convenience, but there is no Final Fantasy token. Like there is no blatant like pay to win in Final Fantasy at all. So I just think there needs to be more. It needs to be more saturated with better monetization models for a gamer, not for the corporation. You know what I mean? So as long as we can keep getting that and reinforcing that and investing in those companies that do that, great.
Yeah.
Like I think it'll
set a new precedent. Yeah.
Right. It'll set a new precedent. But again, talking a little bit about Ashes, right? So out of all of your MMO history, like I'm sure you've probably raid led in MMOs. Is this your first time ever like creating a guild for Ashes, or have you done that before?
I mean, for Ashes, yeah. But
I just mean
over the decades, I've created my own guilds. I've inherited guilds. You know, you name it, and you know, I've raid led. I've main tanked. I've done all the things at some point over the years. But yeah, as far as Ashes goes, are you asking in relation to Suspect or just in general?
Oh, I'm just saying, like, so out of all of the MMOs you've played, like I'm sure you probably created guilds and everything like that, but going up to Ashes of Creation, you created Suspect. Like, what was the overall goal for Ashes of Creation for you, and why you wanted to create Suspect?
Well, it was more we kind of made friendships in another guild, and that guild kind of circled the drain, and
Mm,
it was more in an attempt, because I had made friendships over the couple of years that I was in that previous guild, that I didn't want everyone to just like
yeah, go separate
get
ways
carried
basically.
away in
Yeah,
separate directions, because we were all friends and we enjoyed spending time with each other. So it was more an effort to just keep the band together, so to speak.
right.
So um because that's what I've always strived for, and we have a few of my friends I've played games with for over a decade now. And that's sort of what I wanted to foster, and what we had agreed on when I was asked to start Suspect, is that we just want a group of friends that are going to stick together. So it's more a motivation of the long haul, and providing a home that we want long-term friendships to play games together. It's not just out of convenience of, oh, I need a guild, I'm playing this game, I should join a guild. It's more of an attempt to foster an actual home for gamers to spend time. And even if we're not playing a game, like right now there's a big drought,
Very
and
true.
and it's nice to have friends just to hang out with. Even if you're not playing games, sometimes we'll just hang out and voice chat and just BS.
Well,
So
and
that's
that's
kind of
yeah, no, I completely. That was the whole reason why I loved Discord. Like when I found out about Discord, I can't remember when it was. It was like 2017. Like I'm literally trying to remember like when Discord became a thing for me. Like when I started using Discord, because the whole community section and how you can find communities to be in and everything like that was just so easy, fascinating. It's just so much better than like TeamSpeak or Ventrilo, in my opinion. Um, and I know for myself, like it was really hard whenever in 2020 I was trying to, get into Ashes of Creation and going to their Discord, and there was just so many like NA guilds like recruiting, and they're still like recruiting, like everybody's still recruiting. And just to see all the different guilds and like what they're about, like what their flow is, like some are going to be role play heavy, some are just going to be completely PvP heavy, some are going to be completely like PvE driven. So like it for you, and just kind of hearing a little bit from like what Captain told me, it seems like Suspect is going to be sort of like a neutral party guild, like a mafia for hire kind of status. Like, would you agree with that when it comes to
yeah.
like Ashes of Creation?
Yeah, so when we were talking about what direction we wanted to take the guild, it was kind of, we just came to the conclusion of like, well, we want to be like, our plans kind of revolved around the structure of what Ashes is going to be,
Mm-hmm.
and that is kind of the direction of what made the decisions for us. Is like, so for example, in the current state of what we know of Ashes, there is going to be like 10,000 concurrent people, right,
Maybe
on the
more,
same server.
maybe more.
Possibly more, yeah. And what is it, 50,000 total accounts or something like that per
Possibly.
server,
They
if I
said anywhere
remember?
between 12 to 15 thousand on the
Concurrent.
server and the concurrent, and then 50,000 you can put like a character on
Right.
there or whatever.
So that's basically what we were thinking of, is like, I know that those are rough numbers and they may not be final,
For
because
sure. They're
it's
definitely
still
not
early.
final.
But
They're definitely not final.
yeah, but yeah, keeping that in mind was like, okay, well, shoot for the moon and everything, but we want to be realistic as well. So the odds of us being able to participate in all types of content, like guild castles, for example,
Right.
that's a lot of competition. 50,000 accounts is a lot of competition for 5 guild castles on a server, right?
Very true.
So, shoot for the moon and everything, but if we're realistic, the odds are not in our favor to take on a guild castle unless we're some like mega guild or something.
Right.
So, if we still want to participate in that level of content, it makes sense for us to be a mercenary guild. because we can still participate and have fun in all of the content if we're getting hired by whoever, is trying to keep that castle or trying to assault it or whatever.
Right.
That's just one example. But yeah, and in addition to that, we were also thinking about politics and how, the drama of politics is exhausting sometimes.
I have a
So
I have a big smile on my face
uh,
if you don't know, but yeah, keep
yeah.
going. Keep going.
So yeah, so the idea is the theory is that we would try and keep things clinical, and try and have, like, for example, if we got hired as a mercenary team to fight against Axiom, our hopes would be that it's all in good fun, it's just a game, nothing personal, it's just business, right?
Right.
And then as soon as that battle's over, or our contract is over, we'll all be going back to goofing off with each other, and nothing would change. That's the ideal scenario, is just try and keep things very clinical, nothing personal, it's just business. The next, who knows, the next day we could be fighting for you guys instead, and I think that's a fun dynamic.
Right. I mean, and again, like, I love talking to people that only know faction-based MMOs, right? Because they're like, politics? Like, what do you mean politics? Because this is
Oh,
a factionless game. Anybody can fight with anybody. Like, you can fight with your own guild member if you wanted to. Like, the infighting, like, and this is why I've been saying for so long. And maybe
yeah,
people like meme on me or whatever, but this is the Game of Thrones MMO. Like, shit's gonna
yeah,
go down.
yeah, it totally is.
It's like, and it's gonna be on a macro scale, because think of the content. Like, streamers are always trying to find content, right? Ashes
Right.
in general is gonna give you drama, which in turn is gonna give you
There's
content.
no
You know?
struggle of content.
It's gonna be,
Yeah.
it's gonna be insane. But I really do love the fact, because I know there is a guild that's on the NA server page for the Ashes Discord that wants to go on a server and be known as the shipbuilders. Like, they want to be the shipbuilding guild. Like, that's all they want to do. They're not going to be in alliance with everybody. They just want to be friends with everybody. But hey, if you're addicted to them, well, we're not going to build you ships, and they're going to be known for doing the best ships, or that's what they want to be known for. And I think that's, like, it's just so cool.
I've seen that happen. Like, I played many years of EVE Online, and that exact scenario has happened many times over. It happens.
Oh, for sure. I mean, like I said,
As far as Ashes goes, I think it'll be a really fun dynamic too. Of like, in fact, Captain Redbeard did a video touching on it a while back, about you're gonna have to decide on whether or not you're gonna support your guild to assault your own home node,
right,
or not. And I think that's fun, and that'll be kind of a good laugh to go into a node and be like, you traitor, you're not supporting our guild, you're not a true guild supporter, blah blah blah, all in satire, of course,
right.
And I think that would be fun to just like fight against your own guild members over something dumb like that.
No, I know. I mean, the systems in general, like, and I'm pretty sure you can probably speak to me way more on this than I can to you, but coming as a World of Warcraft Andy for 15 years, the systems in Ashes of Creation are insane. Like, to me, I'm like, Caravan system, never heard of that, but apparently it was in ArcAge. It's in, is it in BDO?
ArcAge was a lot of fun. It is in BDO from my recollection. It's been many years since I played, but yeah, ArcAge was definitely a thing, and that's part of what drew me to Ashes, was the similarities to ArcAge, because I really enjoyed ArcAge, and I am pissed that the publishers just drove it into the ground. It didn't take long, unfortunately, but
yeah,
that's something I'm excited about, the similarities to ArcAge, because it was such a unique game at the time. They could have had a golden egg, but
No, for sure. And I just wanted to ask you, like, so when did you find out about Ashes of Creation? I myself am a lazy peon
Um,
converter, so that's when I found out about it in 2020. So,
so I found out about it right after the Kickstarter got propped up, and I
oh
was
dang.
very skeptical. So I didn't pledge until like long after,
Oh, okay.
because I was super skeptical.
Rightfully so.
Unfortunately, I got sucked into the whole Star Citizen thing, and unfortunately, Crowfall as well.
Hey,
So
at least that one went
as you
out.
can
That
imagine,
one did go out though. That one didn't fail. It did go out.
uh,
I mean, it failed once it
well,
went out, but it did go out. Is what I'm
fail is
saying.
yeah.
It did go out. Is my point.
Yeah. They launched something, that's for sure.
Yes, they did launch.
Uh, but yeah. So at the time, I was very jaded and cynical and highly skeptical. So I it was definitely top of my list to keep an eye on. So it wasn't until I actually saw firsthand like MMO version of the game showcase that I was like, okay, I'm in. So I believe it was
2018.
March 2020 that
Oh,
I finally broke down and was like, okay, I'll buy in.
wow. So did you play the Alpha one?
I did, yeah. That was a lot of fun. So yeah, majority of our core group of people that played in Alpha One are the ones that started Suspect with me. So
Awesome. And just in general, because I not to be all like negative again, but how much of Ashes Creation do you know? Like, are you pretty familiar with all the systems, like everything it has? I'm just asking.
yeah, we've spent many hours theory crafting in the Discord, and talking about our experience in Alpha One and what we expect Alpha Two to be like, and when and all that,
For sure. The
theory going on. But
only reason why I preface that is just to ask, um, what do you feel a little bit more trepidatious about? Because there is some things that I am very worried about when it comes to a lot of these interconnected systems. So I'm just curious from your perspective, like as a guild leader, like what kind of worries you about like either the scope of the game, certain features about the game, certain things about the game, like just in general?
the mostly the thing that worries me, just off the top of my head, I mean, I'm kind of drawing a blank right now, but mostly the thing that worries me is any mechanics involved that diminish the need for socializing. So any mechanics, like if you would compare it to a game like WoW, for example, like retail WoW,
Right.
it's very much a lobby game now. It's not at all what it used to be, where you used to have to network your friends and pugs that you would bring in dungeons and stuff like that, and the need to do that is very much core to old school games. And I think the moment that you lose that identity and the consequences involved of, if I'm gonna be a dick on this server and treat everyone like crap, then no one's gonna want to group with me, and I'm either gonna have to change, do a lot of work to change people's perception of me, or I'm gonna have to re-roll a new character, right?
Right.
You're gonna have to deal with those consequences of how you act and your personality. And I think that's important, especially for server identity, because you can't just run away. If you're gonna be a jerk on that server, people are gonna put you on their kill on sight list, and they're not gonna leave you alone. So you have to think real hard about how you're gonna act. And I think that that's the most important part of MMOs, is that massively multiplayer aspect of interacting with other players. And if you cheapen that mechanic by just making everyone a faceless herd, then that defeats the purpose of playing an MMO.
Oh, I completely agree with you. And even back then, like on my server Altar of Storms and Ashes of Creation in World of Warcraft, all the guild leaders in that server knew each other. Like they all had a vent channel that they can go in to talk to each other. They would just communicate about, just certain things, just keep, about what's going on in the server with their guild members. Like, oh, this person ninja looted our raid, we kicked them out. If you all just want to, if you see this tune, just blacklist them, like don't invite them to your guild. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. And again, because of that kind of self-policing, because they always said it was like kind of like the Wild West, which it kind of was, but the self-policing from the players was vital and super important and happened. Like people think this is like not real. This happened. Like self-policing in WoW was a thing, and people were held accountable, and people did have to probably transfer servers, because there was even people that, like I remember in trade chat back then, it's like, hey, this mage he changed to a hunter and he's da now, so this guy is like bad news and like I'm telling you, man, like people were out for it, man. But it was good, because again, when you're self-accountable, you're less likely to be a douchebag. And if you are going to be a douchebag, you're probably going to be like, you're not going to have a good time. Like you're really not.
What's funny is that it's already happening. There are individuals in my guild that are already making their kill on site lists because of how people are acting, and the game's not even out yet. So
I don't doubt it. You know what I mean? And again, it's just that accountability that people, I think, have been yearning for, because people now, like in World of Warcraft, like you said, it definitely needs it, because the companies themselves don't do anything. They're gonna do what, like a 72-hour like oh, stop that, you're not gonna play for 72 hours, then you get back on and
slap on the wrist.
Yeah, it's stupid.
And they can't possibly keep up with the volume of players that do shady stuff like that. So
for sure. But even back then, like I said, we actually had GMs like on our servers, and if there was a very, very problematic person, we just tell the GM like, hey, look, this is what we've documented on this dude, and this is what's happened. You can cross-reference that with your stuff, but this guy needs to like leave our server. You know what I mean? And the GM like, I'll take care of it. You know what I mean? Like, and that's what it was. And this is why I love Ashes of Creation, because Steven understands the importance of having active GMs on servers, and especially because server identity is going to be a very huge thing for Ashes. We kind of need them. You know what I mean? Like,
well, he's also building the tools within the game for us to help those GMs do their job, because if we, talking about policing our own server, we're given the tools of like, okay, well, in some other games, there's been times where I'm like, man, I wish this guy wasn't our own faction, because I would just like,
kill him,
drop him right here because he's being a douche. So but in Ashes, we'll have the freedom and the autonomy to decide that whenever, because it won't matter who they are or what faction or whoever they're with. We could just drop them right there if they're acting out of line. And the whole bounty hunter system is a direct mechanic for us to handle all the griefers and stuff that are gonna potentially turn away new players. So I think that it's important to have those mechanics for us. I mean, GMs are still necessary, no doubt, but giving us the tools for us to deal with stuff like that is only going to make it easier for them to keep the servers in check.
Oh, for sure. And again, like I think the other thing that kind of worries me is the fact that add-ons, Steven's very, very much against add-ons. And just for people to be clear, I don't like add-ons either. However, the add-ons I don't like are the more, oh, this mechanic's about to happen, move over here. In 5 seconds, this mechanic's about to happen. Like deadly boss mons for World of Warcraft, like why? Like I understand, like
ruined
it really did. It ruined the raiding experience, because you just had a robot basically tell you what to do. You didn't have to remember anything.
You didn't have to remember anything, and that's what made it more difficult in the long run, because people relied on it so heavily that when their add-on wasn't updated or wasn't working properly or something, they didn't know how to do it. they literally didn't know how to do the fights because they were just being told what to do every time.
No, yeah, and my whole thing is that like without a front-facing API, like I personally like damage meters. Like I'm a damage meter guy, and every time, especially in Axiom, we've always have this debate about damage meters. And the one thing I always say, and no one's able to prove me wrong yet, Final Fantasy 14. Final Fantasy 14 is probably a very unique community, right? You know, there's a lot of people that are,
I would say so.
yeah, very unique. I'll just put it in that term, unique. However, there is a damage meter for Final Fantasy 14, and the casual people don't care, because if they're gonna go and they want to raid, if the raid that they enter say, hey, we want a damage meter, oh, I don't have one, I'm just gonna leave and I'll find a raid that doesn't. You know what I mean? It's super simple, right? Like if you are a casual, you find another casual raid or a casual guild to roll with, and you don't have to have a damage meter because everyone's just casual about it. But if you're a hardcore person,
Yeah,
and you're very hardcore minded, then you're gonna go where all the hardcore people are, and you have a damage meter, and none's the wiser. You know what I mean? Like everybody's fine. Like everybody can coexist, is what I'm saying.
so I kind of fall in the indifference category of that. Like I don't mind it either way, but I do see the usefulness of having one, because if you do
Right.
have one, you could potentially improve your gameplay,
For
and I
sure.
think that's important. However, I don't think it's necessary, and I'm not gonna, get all salty about it if it's in one way or the other, or it's not. So
Right. I mean, and again, like I would like one. If Ashes of Creation ends up not having one at all, no one ever creates one, like I'll be fine.
yeah,
But I guess all I'm trying to say is that there is a game where a damage meter exists, right? And add-ons aren't really a thing in that game, right? Like there are
yeah,
like
and
like
the gamers were okay with it. Yeah,
yeah, is what I'm saying. Like they can coexist with it. It's not a big deal. And I think that the same thing can be for Ashes of Creation, because even Yoshi P doesn't like damage meters. Like he's kind of like Steven in that way. He doesn't think they're needed. But I guess for me, in being very analytical, and I love testing, like especially like new abilities, or whether it's like patch notes or updates to the game, and something gets buffed or nerfed. Like I want to have something I can like visually see, like, oh, this talent is really, really good when it wasn't that good before, and you can just see the numbers like right there for you. Like to me, it's just a very easy identifier when it comes to those kinds of things.
I feel like the motivation for Steven to kind of keep that in check is that he just doesn't want or I don't know, this is just my perception of it, but I feel like he doesn't want the game to just be meta, uh you know because that's basically what gamers overall do nowadays, is that they'll just find the most efficient way, period, and then that's it, and that's all they'll do.
Right.
It's less about the
Experimenting.
experience and
Right.
more about the best, bar none. And I think that may be what Steven's trying to avoid. I don't know for sure. I mean, I'm not sure if he's ever said that to that
Um,
effect or not, but I feel like that's the way he's going, or at least that's his motivation, I think.
I think you may be on the right track. Again, I feel another very problematic system is the class system itself, the 64 class system. I don't know how that is sustainable in the long term. I don't know how that's even going to be balanceable. I'm not even calling balanceable from a 1v1. We all know it's not going to be balanced around 1v1. It is going to be completely, I want to say this loud,
Yeah.
completely unbalanced 1v1 because he's going with the rock paper scissors approach. If you play rock paper scissors with your
That's my
friend,
preference.
well, exactly. If you play rock paper scissors with your friend, if I have paper and he has scissors, I lose 100% of the time. That's just how it is. Like if
I mean, yeah,
I
it
lose.
depends. I think it just depends on skill gap as well. But I prefer it that way, because I'm not, at least for me personally, I'm not the type of person of just like, oh, let's duel, and the best player wins. Like, that's not my form of fun. My form
Right.
of fun is with friends, so it
For
doesn't
sure.
bother me that it's that way.
No,
But I
it,
know that some people don't feel that way.
well,
So
for sure. I mean, but again, even if you come from World of Warcraft, pick an expansion. No class has ever been balanced. Like whether you're a rogue fighting a mage, whether you're a warlock fighting
yeah,
a druid, shit was never balanced. There was always someone that was probably going to win anyway. Now, skill always did apply. I'm not trying to say it doesn't. It's not saying even though you're a rock and you're fighting against scissors that you're going to win 100% of the time. If you're playing stupid in the game, you should lose. Like if you're playing completely stupid. But I'm going to have a huge problem if I'm playing stupid and I end up winning 100% of the time. Like that's an issue.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But again, that's all going to become from balancing and testing and everything like that. But again, when it comes to the 64 class system, I think it's a big mistake. And I believe when he was talking about the caravan system and said that, we it went through a second pass recently and we actually changed some things about that system. I really wish they say that for the class system itself, because it seems really impressive, right? You see the 64 classes and it's all pretty, and you see Necromancer, you see Falconer, you see Templar, Juggernaut, and you think like, oh my God, the possibilities. But I think really people are going to ultimately be disappointed for what the system is, because I think it's going to be a very, because you're going to have 8 primary classes, and those are the abilities you're gonna have. When you get your augment, right? When you're level 25 and you get your second augment, you're gonna be able to change those abilities. It's not like, I don't know, maybe I'm hoping that they can completely transform into something completely different. But it seems to me that they're just gonna get like a modifier, right? Like at least that's how it was almost explained to me in the past. And again, I could be completely wrong. They could have a whole different system in the works, and I hope they do, because if you were to add a whole class, which I think if you think like way in the future, right, an expansion for Ashes of Creation, most expansions we look forward to a new class being introduced, right? You add a new class to this system, it's 81 combinations now, compared to 64. So it's like, it's just, I don't know. What do you think about the whole class system in general?
I mean, I think so. I played Arcage, and I think Arcage is probably the closest comparison to what their class system design is. And I think it's necessary to have variety, but the problem with adding more variety is that it exponentially creates more balance that you have to do, right? So I think that at least their current concept, as I'm aware of it, is probably trying to bridge that gap between the extreme of what Arcade used to be and the bland just one class with no variety, period.
Right.
So I think that they're kind of trying to split the difference there and thread the needle of going in between there, because it's not 64 true separate classes, right? It's still 8 classes, but they're all going to have different varieties of what their main skills are. And I think we definitely have to see more first to get more understanding of it, but I think that just based off of what I've seen and heard Steven explain, is that there's still going to be enough variety to make them feel very different without causing game breaking differences. That's just my opinion. I again, like I said, we're gonna have to just wait and see what additions they have, like, because we haven't even seen the base abilities of the rest of the classes yet, so a lot can change. So
well, I mean,
we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, and Steven did say that in Alpha 1, a lot of the abilities that you guys played with were placeholder. They weren't like the final, or not the final, because we know nothing's final, but they weren't like the, semi-final like rotation list for those classes you guys played in Alpha 1, which, tell me a lot, you know what I mean, as to this really, I mean, Alpha 1 was very much a true testing ground. Like, you know, for people that think this was like an alpha, like from another MMO that's been out for like 10 years, no, that's nothing of what this alpha was. I mean, I don't really think a lot of people in today's MMO community have even played a true alpha of an MMO.
So a lot of my background has been spent, like I've even been on a few different QA teams for different studios
Oh
in my
wow.
past, and I briefly was an author for a few gaming articles. I helped a friend run a PC gaming news website called Death by Beta, and he you know sold it many years back to someone else that took it over, and we all kind of went our separate ways. But we a long time ago, we as a core group, we were a small group of us. We were very much into testing, and that was basically what we did. Is we would get press kits, and studios would reach out to us and have us test, and have a. It was before the whole YouTube boom, I guess, of content creators, I guess. So we were kind of doing it old school through gaming articles and websites. So there was a lot of pre-alphas and tech demos and whatever you want to call it that were true alphas, and I tend to agree with you as far as like gamers in general today, that they just don't they haven't experienced that, and I would call it ignorance, and I don't mean that to sound bad. It's just literally a lack of knowledge of what a true test build is supposed to be. It's not some localization from another country's MMO that's been out for years already. So
I think it's
their expectations need to be in check.
well, I completely 100% agree with you. I just feel like with today's generation being so memey and so like edgelordy and wanting to always like, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, I love Asmongold.
Yeah.
He's one of my favorite streamers. Like, I love watching it, but God, his community sometimes it drives me nuts. It drives me nuts. Like, I've been watching him probably since 2014, like from his YouTube channel. And when he went into streaming, I started watching him streaming, but I rarely talk in his chat. Like, I'll look at chat to kind of amuse myself sometimes, but
the chat's moving so fast, there's kind of no point to even say anything in there.
well, right. That's usually why I just
Everyone's
watch
spamming
him.
crap, so.
But it's that kind of thing where people, I don't know if they just want to shit talk something, but even Asmongold said it. It's like, you'll shit talk like WoW with me, but then when I play it, everyone's playing it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's like very tribalistic. And I think if any genre in the gaming sphere is like this, it's probably the MMO genre. Super tribalistic. Like I was to World of Warcraft for a long time. I didn't even realize I was being tribalistic, but it was just almost like this, I call it batter gamer syndrome that I was in, because no matter how bad Blizzard treated me, I was just like, when it gave me something good, I was like, okay, I forgive you. And, kept getting abused for years until finally, like, I kind of
just a little bit of Stockholm syndrome going on.
Yeah, that's what I call the better gamer syndrome, because it's true. I mean, because it's like in other games, like people that have played Final Fantasy, don't sorry, I had a pop-up come up. They're like, I don't understand what y'all were going through. Like, why didn't you just leave? It's because like when you've done something and I think it's the sink cost fallacy as well. Like the more time I put into WoW, the less I wanted to leave, because I feel like all of the time I put in was for nothing. Like if I can just walk away.
Funny, over the years of gaming, what's funny is that I've noticed if someone gets really sick, like I'll have guildies and friends that'll be like, oh, I'm like super sick, I've had the flu for a week, or I went on vacation for a week or whatever, and that is really the true test of how you can find out if a game is really good, in my opinion. Because if you still come back and you are motivated to come play that game again after that week-long break, then it's probably a pretty decent game. But if you take that break and you're like, that gives you an idea. It's probably not that great.
Yeah, I mean, did anybody from Suspect play New World?
Lots of us did. Yeah, we had quite a strong presence in New World. We held Windsward for like 2 months straight, uncontested or something like that, if I remember right.
So I didn't join Axiom during the whole New World thing, but I never cared for that game. Like I played it for 20 minutes on Steam, refunded my money immediately. Like I just like, I'm not gonna pay for something that's clearly broken. And I've never really been a fan of complete action combat either, because I prefer to play ranged most of the time. Like I'll play melee every once in a while, but range is kind of like my preferred style. And having to aim and shoot, was just not, it's just not my bag personally.
It did not feel good in New World. Yeah,
well,
I agree with you.
And I love playing healer. Imagine playing healer in New World, like month 1. Like, no, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do that. But and again, I think there's always a place, and this is another reason why I love Ashes, is because of this hybrid system that they're kind of going with tab and action. Because I love action combat if I'm playing melee. Like Lost Ark, I'll play Shadow Hunter all freaking day. I love it. Like I just but I think the whole ARPG is a little bit something different too. But I can play like a hack and slash like Metal Gear Revengeance or something like that and have a totally awesome time with that. But again, it's anytime where I'm doing something ranged, like I just don't like it. However, like even in World of Warcraft, there are action kind of based abilities even at range. Like there's like explosive shot now where it's redesigned a little bit, where you have to aim it, and then not only do you have to aim it, it's gonna shoot, and then you have to click the button again to detonate it where you want. Because if not, it's just gonna go flying and you're gonna miss. Like it's like, so you have like skill based abilities. I love those. Like I love those risk reward style abilities. When it comes to the hybrid system.
Yeah, I feel like Steven was kind of testing the waters as far as that goes in Alpha 1, because there were skills like that, and I can't remember what it was called, the mage laser beam skill, whatever it was called.
The prismatic beam, I think. Yeah,
that's it. That's the one. So that one, like, even if you were in tab target mode in the Alpha 1, and granted, they redid the combat system since Alpha 1, so it's probably going to be totally different, but the majority of the skills were tab target. But even if you were in tab target mode, you still had to aim that prismatic beam,
right?
Like it didn't matter. Like, and I think that might be the key of like bridging the gap between the tab target people and the action combat people, of like having a certain percentage of your skills be skill shots instead of like full on tab and fire and forget.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that might be a solid way to go, but I mean, if they can somehow do like a soft lock or something like that, because there's not going to be headshots, right? At least as far as we know, there's not going to be any headshot stuff.
I hope not.
So
I hope not.
They could technically do like the soft lock action target aiming thing. So we'll just have to wait and see, I guess.
Right. I mean, and when it comes to like monsters, right? I wouldn't mind actually if there were certain parts of the monster that you had to hit, like I was playing
for raid bosses, that makes sense. Yeah.
Right. Like if there was
for player, PvP.
For PvP, no. Yeah, no, it's not going to work. But I really wouldn't mind it when it came to the PvE's aspect, because a lot of the materials that drop were from world bosses and just mobs in general. Materials are going to be the bulk of the drop, right? The loots, and there's not really going to be a lot of completed gear that drop. So to me, it just makes sense, like kind of like Monster Hunter, right? If you want the tail, well, you got to go and aim at the tail, like go towards the back of the boss and keep hacking and slashing the tail, so you can get hopefully the tail whenever you kill the boss. Like, I actually think it would be kind of cool, in my opinion, if that was a thing. It doesn't have to be. I'm not trying to advocate for that kind of a system, but all I'm saying is that I think it would be a nice touch for certain bosses. It doesn't have to be for every mob or whatever. But I think especially for how mats are going to be done, if you had certain bits of damage going to a certain body part, then there's probably a higher chance of that particular material dropping, depending on how much damage was going out to the boss. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because even if you can soft lock, like there's like, let's say there's 4 weaknesses like on a boss. You can have like a third of your raid on one soft lock, the other and this other soft lock. So that way you can try to like evenly distribute, hopefully, the mats entirely. Or no one needs anything from this soft lock, so we can just concentrate on these 2 only. You know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff. Like I personally wouldn't mind if that was a thing.
That's like it just made me think of like old school Star Fox.
Right.
Like,
yeah, dude.
Parts of the bosses. Yeah.
Well, because it's cool, because it's like at the end of the day, like the boss is still going to have its health, right? So it's still going to go from 100% to 0. But because a lot of stuff is going to be material based, like I think it would be kind of cool if there was different weaknesses on the boss, like, or even like rare elites or world bosses. That way that
could even play into like boss mechanics too. Like if they're doing a tail swipe or something like that, if you destroy their tail, then you don't have to worry about that mechanic anymore. That'd be pretty cool.
Right. And again, you could have like certain things, right? So like people would say, well, Mario, if you do that, you're basically you're gonna have all the range people just attack everything. Well, not necessarily, because you can have certain weaknesses have strengths as well. So where like this particular like tail is completely immune to magical attacks. So you need like melee to go in and get it. Maybe you have like some rangers to help you out there, but like you can still add things to like have it be semi-balanced. You know what I'm trying to say? But I think that's, something I'm going to have a whole video about this probably later on once Alpha 2 gets there and everything like that. Because I do think Monster Hunter does have some really cool things, especially when it comes to their loot table. And for how loot is going to be in Ashes of Creation, I think this would be a really fantastic way to almost like, there's a percentage chance that even if you didn't like damage a certain part of the boss, there's still a chance that something can drop from that particular soft lock that you didn't target onto, but it's like super duper low. You know what I mean? But if you were damaging that the whole time, there's probably going to be certain mats overall the boss is going to drop, but then there's going to have specialty items per soft lock that are completely locked to it, that it's like, oh, you got this rare horn, or these eyes or a tail.
That would also give the players agency over having some influence on what rewards they get too. That would be good.
Well, because the only reason why I say that too is because it's going to be, in my opinion, I think the distribution early on for world bosses is going to be hard. There's going to be a lot of guilds, a lot of groups trying to kill these things. So if you can just even if within your favor, right, to just determine like, man, if we hit this point, these mats drop. Like, so we got to do it next time like that, or even just try to go out to more soft locks or whatever, right? Because hell, there could be a huge ass dragon boss that has like 9 soft locks. You're like, God damn, like, you know what I mean? Like, what's gonna drop from all these things? You know what I mean? So but it makes it more exciting, because again, I agree with Steven. Like, I watched this podcast from like 2018, a couple of days ago from Steven, where raiding is so boring. Like, it's so boring because it's so repetitive. But if you don't really know all of the drop tables, right? Like if there's like 25 items that can potentially drop, but you can actually influence a good majority of them depending on what you lock onto for the world boss, that actually makes it kind of exciting. And it makes it like, a little bit more like, I don't know, just more interesting comparatively to what we have now,
Yeah, I totally agree. That would be cool if they would implement something like that. I think Alpha 2 will be very telling though, because there's still so much, like as packed full and meaty as the wiki is already, there's still so much we don't know, and there's a lot that we can't really theory craft on until
We get
we
more
have more
information.
information.
Yeah. And just sort of like to wrap up our, you know, our whole conversation, like what system do you want more information on? Like what like if you could get like one system to actually know a lot about it, like what would it be? Like the nodes, the classes, the religion system,
You know,
caravans, naval.
I can't really pick one. It's really down to three for me.
Okay.
It's naval, augments, and the rest of the classes. Those are the main three things that I really want. I don't care which one it is that we get more information on next. I just want one of those three.
Right. I think ultimately these next couple of live streams I think are going to be really, really good.
Yeah.
We honestly didn't even go over like the Tolnar reveal. Let's go over that real quick. Like, what did you think of the Tolnar? Because I know that's going to be definitely something to talk about. So was it worth the wait for you?
I wasn't really interested in the Tolnar like until they showed the concept art, and I was like, okay, lizard dude looks pretty freaking cool.
Why is everybody on the lizard dude? I love
I don't know.
I love the middle one, the freaking lion werewolf hybrid guy. Like, dude, he looks badass. Like, holy god. And even like the orc apish one, like, dude, it looks like a freaking
no, they look cool.
Yeah, they look really interesting.
They look cool, but my aesthetic is kind of like evil dark mage kind of thing is what I want to go for.
Like we'll a dragonborn kind of mage, you know?
Yeah. I don't know. Well, I mean, Vec was kind of my top choice, but the lizard Tolnar do look pretty badass though.
Yeah, and the one thing I loved about it too is they didn't look cartoony. They looked mean. They looked adult. Like it looked really
what's awesome is that even though the concept art does have kind of a cartoony look to it, you know, like they've been so consistent going from concept art to render.
Oh, yeah.
It looks so much better in render. Like if you think the concept art looks really good, then you know you're gonna be blown away when the render comes.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be super freaking exciting these next couple of months. Yeah, I am very much looking forward to it. Psycho dude, thank you so much for having this conversation with me. Like, I really appreciate it.
Happy to be here. Thanks.
So where can people find you, like in your guild? Because I'm gonna have stuff in the description box. Whatever you want me to put down there, I'll put. If you want me to put a link to the Discord for Suspect or
yeah, you're more than welcome to put a link in there. We're pretty open. We have very few guild like member only channels, and you know, most of our public channels are where we hang out. So you know, even if you're not looking to join Suspect, you're more than welcome to jump in the server as long as you're, you know, not being
crazy,
toxic and causing drama. So
yeah.
but yeah, the Discord is the best place to find me. We've also got our recruitment post up on the Ashes of Creation forums as well. So
I'm just gonna copy that whole thing. I'll copy that whole thing that you do on there into the description box, so that way they can just read up on Suspect and what you guys are all about. But yeah, man,
thanks, Vlhadus. Appreciate it.
No, dude, no problem at all. Like I said, I always love having conversations, and I'm pretty sure once Alpha 2 comes in, I'm gonna ask you back, so that way we can talk about what Suspect is doing in Alpha 2 and all the different things, and hopefully we can talk about augments, naval, you know, like all the cool stuff. You know,
I really want to like theory craft my main class build, so I'm waiting on a few things still before I can really hash that out.
Yeah, no, me too, man. I honestly still haven't even picked what class I want, because I'm still kind of thinking they're gonna change it. I'm thinking they're gonna like, in my mind, they're gonna change the whole 64 class system. So, but we'll wait and see. Yeah, Psycho dude, thank you so much, man. And hopefully, guys, if you like this episode of the 1v1, hit that like button. It helps me out greatly to promote my channel and my content. Subscribe, you know, if you want to say subscribe to my channel and all the content. If you want to listen to the audio only version, down in the description box, there is a link that you can click on for the audio only version, and it's available on all the big podcasting platforms, on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast. It's all there. But again, my name is Vlhadus. That is Psycho-Phobic from Suspect. This is the 1v1 podcast, and we will see you guys in the next one. Later, guys.